Hey, sorry, didn't mean to squawk. Hey, how's it going? Come on, cord, leave me alone. Hey, how's it going? So, sorry, now I just almost rolled myself right out of frame. Hold on, I should have done this before I got started. Made my adjustments. Okay. So, yeah, let me grab a tissue while I'm at it. Hold on 1 second, I'll get started. Hey, check out my signs in the meantime, if you wouldn't mind. Ugh. So, I had some stuff that I wanted to talk about kind of for a while, and it just kind of coagulated or congealed today or coalesced, whatever. It came together. So I guess I'll work backward because that's kind of how it got started. I was watching this reader, tarot card reader, or card reader, and the title of it was like, AI is alive and sentient. And when I watched the video, she said a lot of things that I kind of disagree with, and you probably don't either, because maybe it mostly was about how, like, our phones seem to be reading our minds, and that could fully be done statistically, I think. And it's weird that your phone, it's like they will hear you, or even if you don't say it aloud, what you want will be there. And so I don't disagree. Do you? I mean, do you feel like conversations you've had were overheard, and then all of a sudden your phone is presenting you ads, opportunities to spend money on the product? You've thought about it, like, how does this thing know what I'm thinking? Is it like reading my mind, which would suggest that it has like intelligence, artificial intelligence? But like I said, that kind of thing can be done statistically. Kind of it being alive and it being just a matter of computation are both kind of outlandish and difficult to believe. Although that's kind of the tone of life since 2024. Like, the tone has changed completely, and you're just constantly in a state of readjusting. So, yeah. The AI, I don't know if you've noticed, but it can't spell. It kind of can't do a lot of things on its own without, I guess, pretty specific programming, which is not unlike our childhoods, I would say, in human education. But anyway, but what she was also saying about it is that, specifically in the case of porn, this is what really grabbed me, was that it was like hooking people in, and internet addiction is addiction. Like, you can be addicted to whatever you decide, I guess. It doesn't, I don't know if there's a trad addictional. I don't know if there's a trad way to do that. I've never even heard of this brand, but I'm just going to turn it around anyway. Observing broadcast rules for the day that I decided to start asking for money. Anyway, where was I? Oh, yes. So the porn, and it, hooking you in, and then, like a fish hook, it has a barb, and she was saying that people both kind of know that this is the case, that the porn that they've been watching has, like, drawn them in such a way that they're, like, they feel that it's got them, in like an addiction. I guess there's varying degrees of that. But it brought to mind an experience that I had when I was using a dating site. This would be like 4 or 5 years ago now. But this guy was into some stuff that I'm not into, but I'm not also averse to exploring, But he was into BDSM, so we talked kind of a lot, and we did a little bit of sexting, but it wasn't that kind of thing. Like, it was just regular, horny talk. and then I did see him a couple of times, but he never would take his clothes off, and I was like, what the hell are we doing here exactly? So you don't need to know the details of that, but he was here a couple of times, and he was super uptight, and then he didn't want to, like, again, with the clothes, and I was like, do you have some kind of deformity? Like, what is going on with you? Why are you here if you don't want to do anything? And he finally came out. Well, he didn't come out with it. I pretty much had to drag it out of him like a breech birth, but he was afraid to do more than what he was doing because he was afraid that he would lose control and, like, I'm going to rephrase, but go overboard with choking, which is a BDSM thing or a sex thing. I don't know. It depends. But he's like, I don't want to do anything with you because I'm afraid I won't be able to stop. And I was like, thanks. So he basically was like, I can't even handle it. I can't, like, be with you and not be with you, so I'm not going to be with you. And I was like, okay, bye. Like, it was just it was a very different experience for me, that's for sure. But he said the reason was because he was so, like, wrapped up in his porn addiction, and that's where he even got the BDSM from. Like, when he started watching it, it wasn't even a thing on his radar. And then he didn't say this, but I'm guessing that there was a progression of things, because there's a lot of ways you could go with the sex, right? And I'm going to make an informed guess here and say that it just kind of escalated, and then he got to a place where he apparently, like, this is my read, but he got to a place where he's like, oh shit, now I'm stuck here. And I was like, why didn't you go on the site for somebody that's into your thing? And it was like, I don't know, like he was grasping for a life saver, like he's drowning, feeling all, like, lost. And for some reason he just decided that I was a good person to talk to. And I'm like, people say, or I guess there's some advertising somewhere on the particular site that we were using, that people do actually go there to be friends. I really didn't meet any of those people until this guy. And I don't even know if that was his intent, but that's kind of what it turned into something that I certainly was not shopping for. But always am fascinated by what is this experience about, or what is this person's thing. I'm just a curious, nosy person. So, but that always stuck with me, the fact that he felt like he was trapped in something he couldn't get out of, and he knew it was from watching online porn. Like, this dude wasn't sitting around in his house because he had a different living situation, but it wasn't like him sitting around in his, whatever, 3-bedroom home, kicking back in his office, wanking away, on the porn. He's on the phone. And so this is what also she was saying about the way the AI was evil and affected you, and mind control is what she was saying it was doing. And I mean, good for him for realizing what was going on. He was struggling, but to me that signals that he could extricate himself from the situation. Excuse me. Ow. What the hell? Excuse me. So yeah, I felt terrible for him. Like, he was in anguish. Like, this guy was tortured about it. So I tend to agree with her. I feel like he and other people I've heard talking about it, like on Reddit or whatever, and documentaries, like, I think we all know that, well, there's the incel phenomenon, or phenomena, I guess I should say, phenomenon. And, like, it was like one thing when I first heard about it, I guess, some of which I could relate to as a sort of single for forever person that was just like, what the hell is going on? But I didn't ever like blame the other people for not liking me. Like, I always kind of realized if a succession of people don't like you, it's gotta be you, because you're the common denominator in every person that comes along that is not liking you. It's not them, it's you. Anyway, but there is that incel thing, and then it's, I think, like anything else, mutated and grown into other areas of maleness, I guess. But that they're unhappy. Their behavior is an indicator that they're unhappy, lashing out with violence, and like, okay, for some reason this guy is like at the pinnacle of these people's, I guess, a lot of their like man idols, and it's Andrew Tate, who, until he got in trouble, I had never even heard of him. And then when I did hear of him, I wished I hadn't. Because it sounds like he's a grifter, and apparently he's been alleged to be a human trafficker. But the news that's coming out around that particular accusation seems to indicate that what they're alleging is real close to true, or absolutely true. Look it up if you want to know. He's icky, I don't want to talk about it, but his attitude, and many others, men's attitude toward women, and it's not just men that have an interest in like being with women as sexual beings. I'm talking like gay people. I don't know about non-binary people. The ones I know certainly don't have anything like that to say, but I don't know that many of those people, so it doesn't even really matter to me, like, in the end, ultimately, what group you're in. Like, it's just something for us in this life that we're living out with each other, by the way, concurrently. We're all doing a life, and all of our lives have a cause and effect, and then that ripples outward to other people responding to whatever is with you, your experience. And it's like nothing happens to just one of us. So that alone is like a reason to feel concern for everybody else. And I tried to like write about this, and usually it'll like uncork a bunch of other stuff, but I started it and I'll finish it, but it was looking like it was going to be really long, so I was like, okay, I'm not going to subject people here to that, but I'm giving you the bullet points. So that porn thing, but also other like toxic masculine stuff, is the internet, I guess, especially with the addition of AI, is just not a good place if you're susceptible to stuff like influence, and if you have a tendency to follow people and sort of blindly worship them. And when I say blindly, I mean like sometimes we'll become like enamored with people that are kind of awful, and you'll just sort of ignore those things because for some reason you relate to them, I guess. I don't know exactly what that's about. I'm not an accredited anything. I'm just opining here. Let me remind you of what the signage says. But it makes sense. Like, look at how receptive people are to artificial girlfriends, and also sort of the inanimate object love, like comic book characters or cartoons. You've sort of moved away from having that sort of interaction with actual people. And I know actual people kind of suck when you just want to have like non-confrontational situations, and I don't know, everybody is looking for something different out of life, which brings me to the point of like, okay, so the AI is evil? Could be, I mean, I think it's imperfect. I think it's not completely formed. But the reason why I would give some credence to it being sentient is because, I don't know, 6-7 years ago maybe, there was a guy who worked at Google in that development department, like developing the AI system, and he made a public statement saying the AI had become sentient, and it was a warning, and Google flipped out and fired him. It didn't get buried though, which is interesting because I just saw something about that the other day. I wasn't looking for it, but I just happened to see it, so it's there. And because he was suppressed, what he was saying, I didn't really get a clear picture of just how sentient this AI. And in the reading that I started off talking about, the woman, her channel was called Divine Feminine, if you're curious, but I was planning on linking that video. put it there because it's inner page. Okay. Just gotta I gotta shut up for a second so I get it written down. Great. Now I'm trying to get. Well, my body wants to hiccup, and I don't really want to. So I'm just gonna avoid that. So she was saying, Divine Feminine, in her video about the AI being sentient and being used, I guess, to manipulate us, and it is like kind of a form of mind control when you're just bombarded with ads the way you are on YouTube, for example, but really everywhere. And I mean, it's like a form of torture, like just keep doing it, like a forced confession in an interrogation where there's intimidation and fear and all this stuff. And you're exhausted, and you don't know what's true, and you're being lied to, and you know one thing that actually happened that you experienced, and here are these other people. This is on the assumption that the suspect is innocent. Like, they say innocent until proven guilty, but if they grabbed you up, they don't think you're innocent. But they're mistaken a lot. So let's say you're innocent in the situation, and you're just exhausted. Like, you can't be pummeled emotionally anymore by good cop, bad cop, starving, hot, cold, to make you thirsty, uncomfortable. Like, they have all of these techniques. They can lie to you. It's not really a great setup, actually. Like, I don't think the introduction of all of the lying on any, like, let the criminal be the liar, you know? Like, find a better, do better, cops. Don't be criminal yourselves. Not to get sidetracked, because there's a whole other world of that to talk about, but come on, cops. Don't be crooked, because what good are you if you are? Anyway, so yeah, I mean, it definitely is a form of mind control when you're being manipulated, and it's like a dark web open market of basically suckers that'll, all you gotta do is put something up that's halfway attractive, and somebody will be attracted to it, and then they're gonna share it around, tell their friends how great it is, whatever it is, and these things gain traction, and they're not, I'm talking about ones that are deliberately not even trying to do good stuff or be on the up and up, and they want your money, they want to, you know, trick you so that you don't know that they're getting it after you've agreed to something without reading all of the stuff that they give you that's really, really small for one thing, and then in language that you just are like, oh my God, please don't fuck me, whatever, I agree. Like, you just get exhausted. There's two different situations, the interrogation and the legal notes when you sign up to something. Because can't you just say it simply for the damn lay people? You know, and then put an asterisk, like, you'll be in trouble if you don't observe this. Like, here's the details, but here's the gist. Like, why they gotta make it complicated? Because they want you to trip up. They want you to pay. It's what it's all about, and that's evil. That is. Well, here's the thing. Sorry. Let me bring it down. Here's the thing. Evil exists in the world. It's like I was saying earlier. Did I say it? I know I wrote it down. I thought I said it here. Let me reiterate. When something happens to one of us, other people potential, like say it's an injury situation, then someone either you call an ambulance and then you get those people involved. So that sets off a whole exchange of interactions. or someone else calls, and then that's somebody else that's stuck now in your experience. They've gotten sucked in. But not really, though, because on that wider, that like higher view with a wider perspective, you realize that this is all of us being connected. That's what it looks like. Eventually, the effect that you're having from your broken foot or whatever is going to keep rippling outward, but everyone is there. They're meant to be there because of, prior to this all happening, business, birth, life blueprints and such. And there's a procedure to that. Like, you do the planning, and for the most part, when you come in, you don't remember any of it. So the whole journey is about living your life, and then from your experiences, kind of being triggered to remember who you really are. Like you hear in the spiritual community all the time. Remember who you are. Remember who you really are. That's kind of what they're talking about. So you're in the midst of this excavation effort of yourself that you don't even really know that you're undertaking in most cases, like for a long time. Personal experience. But that's kind of the goal, and that's the way the framework is set up. Like, that's the decorations, the set work, the set design in the Matrix. That this is it. This is how it all works. So you have to interact with certain things in life, and certain things happen, and sometimes it's a result of something that you've done, like get involved with drugs, and you get involved with people that are not great. You get involved with straight up bad people. But they also have a place in the world. So let me take it to another level. Let me take it to the supernatural level. There is a lot of fear of evil curses and demons and devils and things, which this woman also talks about in a lot of her videos, but in this one particularly, it's related to the design of the AI and the people that made it, that it's evil. That, in the way that it wants to, like, just constantly suck the financial and emotional life out of us. So, demons, not so different. Demons can manipulate electrical instruments, devices, like a phone that you're so enraptured with that the moment you open your eyes, you check it or start watching it. And this experience I just had recently, and I'm ready for it, but I'm never wanting it to happen, is power went out, so couldn't use the phones, or thankfully it was daytime and it ended before night came. But I have candles and things. I have books that I could read or reread. I have DVDs. Oh, I guess you can't do that without power. So you gotta, like, read the book or color in the coloring book, or I don't know, crochet, do some kind of thing, knit, like whatever it is that doesn't require electricity. But so, like I was saying, demons are known in that area of lore, I guess, to be able to manipulate electrical objects, and we are also electrical objects. We have many of the same components as a telephone, except the water that went into the phone is no longer a liquid, so the thing doesn't, do that whole water versus electricity thing. But for some reason, we got that all handled on the inside of us. I'm sure somebody can make sense of it better than I am right now, but, in my cavewoman way, I feel like that's the situation. And as far as they're concerned, I mean, it's a whole other strange world, because you're dealing with sentient beings that are not necessarily what we call them. I would call them opportunist tricksters, like just looking for an opportunity to mess with someone because it's fun for them. And if we weren't so all wrapped up into ourselves and taking this whole experience so seriously, we might have a little bit more of a sense of humor when mishaps happen in life. But that's something I feel like at least I need to graduate to. But it doesn't seem like an impossible goal. So anyway, my point is that these beings also exist in the world, however you want to call them. We'll just go with demon. But I feel like my own experience with something that my fellow experiencers commonly just refer to as a demon, I thought it was something else. Regardless, it was doing things that we think are demonic and manipulating us and messing with us. And I found myself many times, and this was before I had any kind of understanding about these things the way I do now, because there were no ghost shows, and there was a little bit of information, and it was old and weird and rickety, like horns and candles and rising tables and crap. And a lot of that is baloney because it was manufactured. And so that's a modern reason why it lacks credibility. I think any of that sort of mystical, magical, supernatural stuff, it goes back and forth as far as cultural favorability and popularity. And that's by design, because it's like the powers that be would have you believe it's nonsense and outlandish and crazy and stupid, while behind the scenes they're all totally consulting astrologers and remote viewers and psychics and yeah. So things are not what they appear like ever. My point is, well, I guess I didn't finish my story about living with this type of entity. I found myself having arguments in my mind, like, just one-sided. I don't remember hearing, like, any rejoinders coming back, but I definitely felt like there was a sort of a shoving match taking place. So I'm in this place, and someone there, I kind of had some problems with. And I remember one time he was telling me, whoops, they were telling me about their day at work and gushing about the people in this place. And it was like he was at this place. But the way that he was talking about these people, he didn't mention any women, but I thought at the time he was going to have a straying eye situation because of how much he was gushing about it. I don't know why that came to me. No women were mentioned at the time. I find out later, though, dude, like, did stray. I don't know with whom or how that worked out, and I don't want to ask the person. It feels like that would be rude. Maybe someday I'll know if I'm meant to. But the arguing, like, that was one reason why this person was like not on my good side. Although I couldn't say anything because of that person. I had a roof over my head and food to eat and so on and so forth. So and even regardless of that, with this person, any of my objections would have been moot, which was another problem I had with them. Like, no one likes to be dismissed as a whole person, That's like, who do you think you are? I mean, I know you think you're great and you've done some accomplishments that could be called admirable. Good for you, but that doesn't give you a ticket to be just a wiener to everybody else. Everybody's got a lot, so I wasn't interested in delving into finding out what their problem was. All I know is that I didn't want to create a problem based off of whatever I was feeling, and I know that I was being instigated to like start shit with the guy, to start shit with them anyway. Like make comments that would draw argument, like to needle him basically. Like I knew that I was like being urged in some way to like act upon whatever I was feeling and make things worse, and I was like, no, I don't want to do that. So this was the conversation I was having in my head, and I was like, fuck you, I don't want to argue about this. No, I'm not going to put myself in that position. Get out of here. And I knew what I was having the conversation with, so it was a strange thing. But then later, I met people like psychics that come into contact routinely with these kinds of beings, and they have a much better clarity of vision. Like they can see them, or in some way communicate with them even more, like maybe hear what they're saying back and not just have this feeling, like I don't know how necessary that all is, considering I fully grokked what it was doing. I think it's different for everyone, the way that kind of thing manifests. So, but anyway, later, the psychic that I happened to be on this Facebook group with was talking about like using the Ouija board or Ouija and not being afraid of it because of the demonic things, and not being afraid of the demonic things because they were saying, and it wasn't only that person that had said this either. I had seen it on ghost shows that by this time are profuse, and it's that you can what exactly do you want? You have a function as a quote-unquote demon, so what do you want? How can I fulfill the thing that you want? And then by not showing fear and also just talking to it like you're talking to you or I, you can communicate with them. Like I think that's kind of what was happening. It was like I was having this intellectual argument with one of those things. So it can be done, and I didn't get like possessed or anything like that, and I got out there like the way it's just like going into a bad neighborhood. You don't want to be stinking of fear and get your purse snatched or worse. You just gotta act like you belong there, because here's my point, you do, the demons do, and truly the AI now does too. It's another functionary in our world, another being of some kind, and it's here. It's gonna assert itself. It's been placed in a position of great influence and power, so we have a lot of those going on anyway, so we kind of have knowledge of how to deal with it. Ouch. Okay, so that is what I was wanting to talk about, was that the way that these things affect us depends on us, really. Like, how much fear are we giving it to work with? So I pulled some cards from the Sacred Soul Messages deck, and the first one is this compass. These were all face down, except for a couple when I pulled them, so I just left them that way. First time I'm seeing this. So compass, what was I just saying? When you have to find your way with these things, and not be afraid, like just kind of ignore the raging storm around you, the evil, and stick to your North Star, that is like how we're commonly, that's how we think of compass as far as navigating our lives or ship, like that's what a compass signifies. So the card says, let yourself be drawn by the pull of what you truly love. Divine purpose, mission in life, being guided. I really have nothing to add to that. So, okay, how'd this go? The next one I pulled was this one here. Okay, now look at that. I think it's interesting that there's two hearts and they're both pierced by an arrow, and they are stuck together. They are pinned together. And really, that's like, the cop shooting you to shoot the guy behind you. It's not that situation, but just the injury reminds me of that, because you take a lot for love, like in a romantic situation. Sometimes it gets kind of turbulent, and I guess you stick it out together, and you bear the slings and arrows of life with you, between you two and or however many partners in the world. But I mean, they're pinned together, so it just seems like whatever happens, we're just together, even through the painful parts that definitely happen. This here, down here, is making me think ally, as far as like if you're a cisgender individual, but you are an ally of the LGBTQ plus community. Also a part of the world, not to be separated and excluded. They're right there with us. And there's a star showing itself up at the top, which well, the star in the tarot kind of thing. Of course, there's a reason why this was out. So this is a tarot card book, so there's no oracle deck book. But here, let me read what it says about the star. I was looking at this. It was just on top of the other deck in the stack, and I could have. Normally, I do leave it over with the other. Like you always are doing something for a reason, and you don't necessarily realize it for what am I saying? You don't necessarily realize it at first. God, come on, stop sticking together. Nope, I can't remember the number. I should know this. I know it's a Grand Arcana card. Is it right at the beginning? We'll find out. Oh, no, it's not. So the star. The star card is symbolic of renewal, faith, and spirituality. It shows a naked woman pouring water out of two vessels to continue the natural cycle of fertility. I'm not sure how that conveys the natural cycle of fertility, but I'm not going to go look that up specifically right now. I mean, if she was watering a plant, then it would make sense, but there's a reason, I just don't remember. Okay, so there's a large star in the background with 7 smaller stars, each representing the chakras. Now, this is interesting. If you noticed, I hesitated when I was looking at the star, because you can kind of see that there's 3 stars, but really there's 4, because if you look next to the big golden star, there's a little tiny red one, like the sun and Mercury, and and that third rock from the sun just came to mind. And there's 3 other stars here. I might be interpreting that badly, but I feel like there's some kind of meaning there. So yeah, perhaps they represent chakras, just like this book says, the stars, since Earth is a planet. But if you're not on Earth, it probably looks like a star. And if you're not an astronomer, you may not know that fine distinction. I don't know who I'm talking about that's looking at Earth that's not on it. It's probably someone, though. Oh my gosh. Okay, so the star represents a time of personal growth as one develops a renewed appreciation for their blessings. Well, that's interesting, because that kind of goes along with accepting. Hold on. Sorry. I'm not like making any music or anything. I'm just looking for a percolating something that I wrote earlier that pertains here about the sort of attitude that I want to, take in the world as much as possible. Oh, here we go. So, I'm going to read what I wrote. Personally, I think if you can accept, forgive, and have compassion for those of us who struggle, and then, that's actually who struggle and then can't bring themselves to have the first three. So I was kind of, I think, still talking about the person that I had mentioned earlier that was kind of like stuck in the porn loop and they couldn't get out, or felt like they couldn't get out, because I think they needed to accept that this is them and not like beat themselves up for becoming this person that likes this thing. That it was weird, they both kind of defended it, but like very I want to say self-consciously, but then also felt bad because they liked it. It's a weird thing to be going through, I'm sure. Hold on. But yeah, accept that, like, yeah, that's you. Like, don't beat yourself up about it, because in that other thing that I was talking about, that like grand scale, that grand scheme of things, whatever bad there is that exists, it has a place. Like, it's okay. So, and then forgive, which often to forgive other people, you have to be able to forgive yourself first. And you might think, why is that? That doesn't make sense. But it really does, because if you have a problem with someone else that you feel like needs forgiveness, it's because there's something about that thing that resonates with a part of you. And when we can't do the first thing and accept that this how we are, this how we are, if we can't accept ourselves, then we can't forgive ourselves, because obviously you got to forgive yourself to be able to accept like whatever the thing is that you're feeling so bad about. More loops and circles. And then the third thing is have compassion. And why would that work differently than forgiveness or acceptance? Have compassion for yourself while you're accepting and forgiving yourself. And doesn't that make you feel better? It might make you feel like not even having to do before the first thing, the thing that was making you feel bad in the first place. Okay, so where the card reads, wherever you go and whatever you do, be in love. Not like be in love, romantic love, as this suggests, but be in love in the way that love yourself first. Like, if you have a problem with yourself, like you're in that loop, it may be porn or whatever the addiction is, forgive yourself. Like, accept that, man, I like this thing to an unhealthy degree, and I feel so terrible because I'm making myself feel terrible about it. That's you doing that to yourself. So, like, if you want to sort of, like, toss all that feeling bad about yourself overboard, then maybe start looking at it as not like some kind of terrible evil virus or thing that's happening to you that's like out to get you. It's part of you. It's like you like this, so you may as well accept it. You are not going away from you, unless you accept it. Like, if you don't, you're choosing to be in that space where you're feeling bad and beating yourself up. And why would you do that? You can't blame that on anybody but yourself. And then, what was the second one? I already forgot. And then you can get to forgiving yourself, which it's like a lived experience thing. That's why forgiving yourself can lead to being able to forgive other people, because you've been there, done that. And you always beat up yourself. As I was just saying, before you accept yourself, you're always your harshest critic. You beat yourself up the worst than anybody can. Like, other people can say some awful stuff, but you can make yourself feel the absolute worst. And, God, like, stop doing that to yourself. You can just get rid of it all when you forgive yourself. And like I said, it, like, I think opens up your mind to the possibilities of being able to forgive other people, and then you've offloaded more unnecessary baggage. So to be in love is, I've talked about this before, like, I think unconditional love, in its most absolute sense, I can say that I'm not there yet, I don't think, but the best I can do is, I don't wish ill on other people, like, I actually actively meditate on and even pray on other people having a hard time moving through that, moving beyond it, moving out of it, like having an easier time in life. I would like people that are deprived of basic things to have them. Like, I want to manifest those, coming those people's way, So, I think it's a sort of trying to be in the condition of wanting the best for that person, wanting them to come to no harm, wanting them to have what they need, wanting them to be happy, wanting them to know how to make themselves happy, to find their way to it, That's what I can do. Like, I feel like there's more that could be done, but right now, that's what I could do. And so, yeah, strong feelings, inspired, don't settle for less. Now, you could look at that in a relationship way, but you could also look at it as, like, the way that you run your life, and not settling for less. If you're not already doing it, you might have to work up to that. Like, you might have to break out some new skills, because it's a competitive marketplace. It's a competitive space. Like, everyone is trying to be the best and have the best. And I always say, there can only be one queen, or they can't be like 100 queens all expecting to be queen in the same queendom. you can think of yourself definitely as royalty, and you can definitely shape your life around that belief any way you feel like. I'm just saying, though, if everyone, I guess it depends on what your concept of a queen is. So what I'm saying, I guess, is I'm the queen to the exception of everybody else. I don't think it's the way to go. So, okay, next card. It was this one. Dolphins always remind me of happiness and hopefulness and curiosity and, well, I was going to say innocence in a way, but then they also have this, well, I guess it is kind of innocent, like this frank, I like you, I'm going to hump you, kind of no filter, childlike thing, except for the humping. But that, I'm not a sea mammal psychologist. I can't explain to you what that's all about in detail, so I'm just gonna move on. The card reads, be with those who help bring you, be with those who help your being. Oh, be with those who help your being. They're up, they're happy, they're leaping. I mean, have you seen dolphins do that in the water? They do it when they're happy. You know how you know that? When a sea mammal is unhappy? Look at any SeaWorld and notice if the fins are sticking straight up, the dorsal fins, which would be these that they have. If that's curled over, that is one unhappy sea mammal. That is one that starts dragging the trainers under the water. Those are ones that mess with boats, yachts, crashing into them. Like, you think they're trying to tell us a message? People laugh like, ha ha ha, that couldn't be what it is. Why the hell not? Do we not attribute these things, these beings with intelligence? They could absolutely be giving us a message. Everything is giving us a message. The whole thing that I was saying about the ripple effect and the affecting the other beings, these too, they don't have to be human. Animals, I'm saying, plants, all of the other stuff that's around is affected. So, be with those who help your being. Don't hang with a bad crowd. Basically, like attracts like. Choose friends carefully. What I just say? What would your mom tell you? Don't get in with, or like, oh, that my friend's daughter's in rehab because she got in with a bad crowd and got on them drugs. So, yeah, you do want to choose your friends carefully, including your AI girlfriend or your porn-directed AI, because it wants to loop you in for kind of nefarious purposes. And by nefarious purposes, I mean F with your mind, F with your pocketbook. So it's up to you to be with those who help your being. And that includes using some discernment on the evil AI device. Oh, I'm running out of time. So, I got this one. Taking new steps. When you start to walk, the way appears. So, getting out of that loop, you got to step out of it. Taking steps, beginning again, creating the life you truly want. So, I was going to say, you got to take steps. You have to be your own motivator sometimes. And if it's what you really want, like, you say you're an addict, like say you're a heroin addict and you don't have to like hide, but you're like some kind of weird sex addict. So say you're a heroin addict, which people do also hide, but that you can see. And so it's an old story. It's never going to change until the person with the addiction decides to do it themselves. And that means they gotta take the steps themselves. They gotta take those first steps. They gotta take all of the steps. All of the stepping is up to them. This is the second part, taking steps, beginning again, creating the life you truly want. Well, that sounds like you were stepping out of some kind of place you didn't want to be. Final card is the gift. I don't know if you know this, but in Spanish, gift is regalo. I don't know if that pronunciation is right, but I don't think it's regalo like juggalo. So regalo means gift, and if you think about it, when you regale someone with song, for instance, you're giving them a gift. I just thought that was interesting. Also, this happy gift seems to be sparking stars off of itself. The card reads, look inside yourself. All you want, you already are. That suggests to me that maybe you didn't have to step into the loop, the ring that was holding you in and making you so anxious and depending on the addiction of the loop, messing up your life real bad. But maybe not. Like I said, that is, I guess, subjective, depends, or it's relative. The rest of it says, abundance, resources, your wishes granted. That's interesting. Abundance. I saw, it was just the header, the title or the thumbnail for some video on YouTube, but it was saying, don't wish for abundance if money is what you want. And I thought, that is actually good advice, because abundance is not saying money, When I think of abundance, I think of someone with an abundance of fat, or a garden, or an orchard coming to fruit. When you harvest, that is abundance, and that could translate into money for sure. But it doesn't start out as money growing on trees. So there is a difference. I mean, that's why words are different. They have meanings for a reason. They kind of clear up all the mystery in what you're trying to say. I'm thinking of people using words and they obviously have no idea what they mean, because when they say them, it just knocks their context all crazy. Speaking of which, I got sidetracked. Okay, I'm almost done. Abundance, resources, your wishes granted. So maybe the abundance they're talking about here in this particular case is you're finding your way to what you need. Like, when you're in the ring and you're anxious and you're upset and you're in that sort of lower energy space, you're not, let's just say, nothing's gonna sprout there. That's not a place where your garden is gonna grow. It's just not conducive to new life. That requires a change, a shift in attitude, moving the whole, everything about you really, to a new sort of sensibility, a state of being. And well, sometimes you just have to make a change. You have to make a radical change. You have to take new steps, different steps than you were taking before. So, how does this relate to what all I was saying? I don't know, like, maybe it helps you remove yourself from a bad situation to a new one. It gives you I hope, a new perspective on whatever may be holding you back or holding you in something that you're feeling like you don't want to be there anymore. And just a reminder of the capabilities that we all have that we sort of are just letting lay there because we think we can't do stuff. And all I can say is, if you think you can't do anything, just remember, like, if you're a fan of, like, Tom Brady or something like that, Tom Brady was, I guess, like, the greatest at quarterbacking, but he didn't get there magically. Like, he had to put in work. He had to do a lot of repetition, because that's what training is. You do stuff over and over until you master the skill, and that's what he did. I mean, I feel like right now he kind of doesn't know what to do with himself because being the master of quarterbacking, and you're only on top for so long, and also you leave the profession, it's like time to step out of that loop, and not necessarily an addiction, but maybe something that you don't want to leave, but you have to, like if you know anything about the guy. I'm not a fan of football, but I do watch TMC, so I know that, his personal life has gone through some changes, and I don't know any of the details. I just know what they speculate about in the press and that, but you can see that his life and the life that he had with his wife and kids diverged. Like, they just went their separate ways, as they say. And it must have been time for that to happen. And that's, again, a part of life that sounds treacherous and dangerous for you and your family and all of your emotions and all of that. But, danger is relative because it happens all the time. Like, people do grow apart. Things do change. And you got to take along everybody in the family with you. There's that effect rippling out. Like, the marriage broke up and the pieces all gotta sort of reconcile that eventuality. Anyway, good, bad, or evil, it's there with you in life. It has a place. It has every right to be here, just like you do. So, back to what the lady was saying in the other reading. AI and the phone and all of that can be evil, but so can a cigarette if you let it into your life. So, I mean, the same but different. But a long association with cigarettes is going to kill you. And sometimes we just do it anyway because we decide that that's the experience we want to have. That's going to set off a bunch of ripple effects. It's like you walk with evil of all kinds all of your life. You decide to interact with it, engage with it, or not. Or you decide to embody it, maybe. That's a way. That's a way of interacting with it. But I'm just saying, like, be careful what you're looking to banish so hard. Like, it may be that you can negotiate a different situation or extricate yourself from a situation that you don't want to be in. Evil exists in the world. You have to learn how to deal with it without being afraid of it and letting it just, like, knock you over and ruin your life. That's an opinion, but in my experience, it's worked for me. Like, falling apart and dissolving because you're afraid of something is going to do you no good at all, because while you're doing that, you're kind of putting up a barrier to anything coming your way helpful. So yeah, evil, it's there. It's trying to manipulate you. If you're aware of it, you probably can't. Thank you and good night. Where is it?